What brings you here today, Steve?
Well, I think like everybody else, we're relieved. I'm relieved that there seems to be some sort of ceasefire in Palestine. But I don't trust Netanyahu, and I think we have to keep up the pressure. I think like yourself, Donny, and everybody else here today, we've never seen anything like this in our lifetime. Thousands of babies, children, women massacred. And we have to make sure it never happens again. So that's why I've turned up just to add my voice to that.
First of all, it's quite shocking what we can see with you and your comrades here supporting a line, literally a washing line of clothes, and these represent something that is really quite macabre. But I'd like, in your own words, if you could tell us, how did it come about that you decided to do this?
Well, I'm from High Wycombe Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, and it was decided that we wanted to do a visual representation of the genocide. So we've been collecting together these baby grows and sewing them, and as you said, by stringing them along, you can just see this is 400. There's 39,000 plus young babies, children who've died needlessly at the hands of this genocide. And that's before you start to think about the adults and the innocent people in Palestine that are still being bombed even prior to the ceasefire. There's been no let-up, and the cruelty of the situation is just awful. So we want to highlight that.
Clearly lots of things need to be changed. One of the biggest changes in this country is that the media does tend to portray a lot of people saying that our government is friends with Israel. Israel's a political entity, it's a country, it's not people. But people like yourselves clearly don't want such things as this going on. How would you literally, if you had one word to describe what's going on out in Palestine, what would it be?
A living hell. That's two words, but hell. Hell on earth.
But there have been massive amounts of people lost. Clearly you represent those children who couldn't possibly have a voice for themselves. Before they could even speak, before they even knew they were Palestinian, they're gone.
Yes. They've had no life. They've had no chance at life.
You've taken an opportunity to make a stand and to come out here on a very, very cold day to make what is a very significant protest. But what about people who are sitting at home who would feel like they'd like to do something themselves? What advice would you give them?
I'd say find your local Palestinian Solidarity Campaign group. You can look on the website. They may not be associated with the Palestinian Solidarity, but there's groups all up and down the country. So get involved, go to local meetings, spread stuff on social media from reputable sources like the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. Just do what you can. Just talk about it. Don't let the Palestinian cause go off the news. Just keep talking about what's been happening. And it's dreadful. It should be tried in the criminal courts. It should be the people who perpetrated this genocide. So
well, we've certainly seen that this time around the ICJ, actually the head of the ICJ's now got a nice job somewhere else. They're really trying to shuffle things around so that nothing comes of what these charges are going to be. But Lydia, particularly what I'd like to ask you, that might resonate with our viewers, what brought this to your attention in the first place? What brought you to be concerned about what was going on in a country that's quite far away, that certainly the UK is responsible for to a great degree historically? What brought it to your attention and made you take action?
Well, I've been involved for quite a few years now, and I'm involved with a refugee camp in East Jerusalem, so through knowing Palestinians and Palestinians visiting here that I know, it's just like your next door neighbour, something happening to your family here. It's just an atrocious act that's taken place. It's just something the world has watched and let happen, and it's shame on us as fellow human beings.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. As we met today, coming outside of Westminster Station, we considered there to be something of an up-tempo feeling, of a carnival site, an image that was coming towards us. We thought, this is nice, it was a bit more relaxed. So we popped over to have a little word with officers from the Territorial Support Unit. They support, since they are police officers, but they're very different from the Metropolitan Police and the City Police. They support police units where there may be trouble. And we were quite surprised at what their response was. One of the officers specifically said he didn't think that was the case, and he seemed to think that something else would be much more likely. Do they have more information than we do? And I want to ask you the question. How did you feel when you arrived here today? What was the atmosphere?
I feel the same way I feel every time, that it makes me feel very happy finally to be among people who are happy to come out onto the streets and talk about the absolute travesty that has gone on with our country supporting Israel. Absolute travesty. It's incomprehensible why we do that. I feel like I'm nervous today because I feel like with the ban on the march, potentially, I don't even know if we're able to march today or whether this is just a rally. I feel like I'm worried that somehow someone is going to try and provoke something to happen today. We have marched peacefully for over a year, hundreds of thousands of people, and I'm astounded it's remained peaceful in the face of such a terrible injustice that's happening, and our country's supporting it. And I see all these police behind us marching forward. I feel sorry for them in a way. I'm sure they don't really want to weaken themselves, but I'm fearful today that something's going to happen.
Well, one of the ways to go forward to bring about a resolution to the disgraceful map of what's going on, that map's changing all the time out there in the Middle East. One of the ways forward is by people like yourself going out there and making it clear. But is the media doing the job that you want it to do?
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. I'm always writing, particularly to the BBC. I feel like people are able to come on and use that platform to talk, and they are not questioned enough. I agree they need to be impartial to a certain extent, but I heard just the other day David Lammy on Radio 4 talking about how Israel is the UK's friend, and in the face of what Israel's doing, I find it shocking that he was allowed to say that without being challenged.
Okay, obviously we've heard the name Marwan Barghouti, but all Palestinian political prisoners, what I'd like you to do is to make it clear to our viewers, who is he, what does he represent, and obviously in terms of other political prisoners, we know there's a lot more, but if you could put it into your own words so that viewers who don't know about this get a grip on what's actually going on out there.
Marwan Barghouti is the Nelson Mandela of Palestine. He led the non-violent resistance against Israel many decades ago, and since 2002 he's been imprisoned by the Israelis after a fake, unfair trial. So he spent 23 years behind bars. He's been subjected to beatings by prison guards, denied medical treatment and tortured. He is the best hope for Palestine. He's the most popular Palestinian leader. He supports a democratic, secular Palestine. He's against the corruption of the Palestinian Authority. He is absolutely crucial to a negotiated settlement to secure justice for the Palestinian people.
So basically the faith of the Palestinian people across the West Bank and Gaza is going to be put in his direction, you're saying?
Absolutely, but that is the reason why Israel won't release him. They are afraid. They know he's the most popular Palestinian leader. They know he will negotiate. They know he will push for a two-state solution, and Netanyahu and his cronies don't want that.
And neither does Mahmoud Abbas either, does he? I mean, he's getting along in years, and there seems to be little action from him in the West Bank. In fact, of recent times there's been news reports coming out that he's actually sent his forces in to actually support what Israeli troops are doing out there. What's going on there? Why would you do that?
Well, Mahmoud Abbas is deeply compromised. He's really been colluding with the Israelis. He's never had, since 2 decades, free and fair elections. His security forces are extremely authoritarian and corrupt dissent, even dissent within his own Fatah party. He's unpopular. Most Palestinians want him to go, but he's clinging on for power. And that is completely against the interests of the Palestinian people. There needs to be free and fair elections. Marwan Barghouti must be able to stand, and everybody says, all the polls so, that if that was the case, Marwan Barghouti would be the president of Palestine.
Right, in short and simple terms. There are a lot of people watching our show, and they're often new to the show, and they want to know, perhaps, if they have a feeling in their hearts that they could do something. There's tens of thousands of people out here today, I would imagine. But what would the individual do if they felt like they wanted to commit to doing something, to getting a free and peaceful solution to a problem out there in the land that this country is obviously responsible for in a greater part today?
Well, absolutely. Supporting protests like this, loving your MPs, those actions are vital. It's public pressure that can change the British government's policy of arming Israel. It's public pressure that can secure divestment, boycotts and sanctions to force Israel to the negotiating table.
It's really a good thing that people will boycott individually, but we see the government jumping into action against states like Russia on some pretense, freezing their accounts, seizing assets. Why can't they do the same with a state that's now, we have the Prime Minister and the Defence Minister have international arrest warrants issued for them. And as for trade unions, I mean, I'm fed up with trade union leaders getting on these platforms. You may have some today, I don't know. When we have my former union, the RMT, we've got members serving in the Royal Fleet Auxiliary in the Red Sea, flying drones over Gaza, giving the Israelis information. The Unite and GMB are manufacturing arms and components for arms. And the PCS are signing off the documents to get those arms exported. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the hypocrisy of people, trade union leaders, getting up and making speeches how much they're in support of Palestine and not organising their members. Gun store members in Ireland in the 80s during the apartheid era refused to handle goods, and they did that because they refused to the trade union leadership said that they should not handle those goods. At least the trade union movement in this country should give that call: do not handle Israeli goods, arms to Israel or anything else.
Together in the centre of London to demand justice, freedom and peace for the Palestinian people on their ancestral land and refuse to be defeated. This historic victory has been won by Palestinian resistance, by Palestinian steadfastness,